final step here in this particular implementation is to link this to a configuration item in CCMDB so that the operations team can deploy this particular ear into the correct staging or production environment. So we go back into our asset search here and we take a look at the community for operations. We're actually going to need to be someone else besides David. So let's log out as David, and we'll log back in as a user who actually has permission to see the operations assets. So if we come in here to our communities, we go into the operations community, and you'll see that there's only one thing in the operations community. We're going to need to enhance our search criteria to also look for remote assets. The links that we have over to CCMDB actually represent remote assets. They represent assets in a remote system. And so as you can see, we have a number of these. We also have, let's take a look at our configuration items, and let's take a look at the approved configuration items, and that's the list that we have here. So here was version 1 of the credit version service implementation. If we take a look at this implementation, we can see that it has information that's brought over and synchronized with Tivoli CCMDB. You can see the CI GUID, which is maintained in CCMDB, the CI number. We can also see a couple of the important attributes, the image name and image version, as well as categories and a link back to the actual implementation asset itself. So this is giving you as a developer or a tester some of the information you need from the CCMDB side of the house and the operations side of the house without actually having to go over into those systems. Now, if you do need more information, of course, you can link right into CCMDB to get that information. So here is the representation, the object in CCMDB that represents our credit version service, our implementation for Linux. If we go into the configuration item, we see all of the configured details, including the fact that it's a software image, the actual CI number, and the attributes that are associated with it. Now, if you switch your hat for just a moment and imagine that you're an operations or a release manager and you are configuring various configuration items for deployment, you may be interested in more information about this particular configuration item. Perhaps you want to know who's in charge of the Linux implementation for the credit version service, or you'd like to know what software is included in this particular implementation. What you're able to do with the integration is link right back into Rational Asset Manager and get information about the release itself. So here's our implementation, and of course an operations person would find this very valuable because it shows them who the owner is, the community that it came from, any defects that are associated with this particular implementation asset. We can see all the software that this software depends upon, and all of the normal things that you would get from the library of information. Now, returning back into CCMDB, our operations person may also want to ask a different question. Are there any software images available from Rational Asset Manager, from the definitive software library, that need to be configured here in CCMDB? So in order to see that, we would simply go into the DSL, the definitive software library list, and for most customers they would have a number of these definitive libraries. RAM would be the definitive library for all of the internally built software or systems that need to be configured. And so if we access the DSL here and we access the software images, we can see that a couple of them have already been configured, and we can also check and see if there are others that are available as well. And so here what's happening is CCMDB is searching Rational Asset Manager for implementation assets that need to be configured. One of them is the one that we just created, which is the Credit Verification Service Implementation 1.5. And so by selecting this, we can actually bring this over into CCMDB so that the operations or release manager can configure that and prepare it to be deployed into the staging or production environment. Alright, so that's a pretty complete picture. Let's take another quick look here at the implementation itself for Linux. And of course, this is an implementation for the Credit Verification Service Release 1.0. So this was our service release, and if we take a look at this in the visual editor, we'll just have a quick summary before we're done today. As we look in the visual browser, we can see the release itself. This is actually the 1.0 release. We want the version 1.5, of course, which is the new version that we were just dealing with. Okay. Let's take a look at this. So here is our credit service, our credit verification service 1.5. It has a design, a test plan, a specification. Let's take a look here and see if there are other related assets. You can also see that there is indeed an implementation asset. And if we explore this asset further, we can see other very valuable information. We can see the software that the implementation depends on, the specification itself, and this gives us an ever-increasing amount of information that really provides us with a definitive library for the assets that are involved in software and systems development. So I hope this was helpful. Thank you, and look forward to talking with you soon.